It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us back in the studio is Stephen Jagla, the Youth and Young Adult Ministry Coordinator for St. Vincent de Paul Fort Wayne. Thanks for being here, Stephen.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks.
How did the music festival go?
Fantastic.
Good.
It was
Glad
great.
to hear. All right.
It was a blast.
One of the things that I've been wanting to talk to you about, I'm not a big reader, but I know a lot of people are. And although I'm not necessarily going to read these books, I like hearing about them and I like learning about them. And maybe
Spark notes. You get the spark notes from others, right?
But also, I know a lot of people are always looking for, like, what's a good book to read? Or
Sure.
Yeah, we don't want to just grab one off the shelf and then be disappointed halfway through and be like, I just wasted all this time. So, you are a reader. Would you, like, on a scale of never reading a book to I'm a bookaholic, where do you put yourself?
Maybe a 7.
Okay.
I mean, 7's always
high.
safe
That's
anytime you get a scale.
Okay.
It's like I'm not that intense, but I read.
Fiction or nonfiction?
I go back and forth.
Okay.
I have a system. I go through like a cycle. First of all, when I started,
Okay, tell me this.
Okay.
I want to hear the cycle.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's been a little crazy
The
for
system.
me. Yeah, so like in college, I would have.
Do you need a whiteboard?
I would start
for this?
4 or 5 different books at one time.
Okay.
And then never finish any of them.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of us do that. So then I had a buddy challenge me. He's like, Jagla, you just need to read just one book and finish it. And then I started doing that, and it felt great. So now I try to just stay in one book, but I cycle genres to keep me interested. So I usually pick up a book on, a theological work. I love reading those. And then after that, I'll go into like a philosophical work, or I'll go into a scientific work. And then after that, I'll go into a novel or something to entertain me, and then repeat.
Huh.
So, yeah.
So, where do you get your book recommendations from? Like, how do you decide what book you're going to read next?
So, to be honest, I work at St. Vincent's, and Father Dan Scheidt is the pastor.
Yes.
So if you know Father Dan, yeah, you know where it's going. I actually just go into his rectory like every 3 months, and then I take a picture of his recently read book pile, and then I go off of that.
Huh.
Because he's such an avid reader, our pastor, and he reads the most interesting things. Some of it's over my head, but
you don't ask for his suggestion. You just look at his recently read
I mean, he gives good suggestions.
Okay.
But sometimes I'm not in the same place he is.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I don't think many are.
So, in your history of reading books, what have been some highlights? Anything that you've maybe even read more than once, or something that you frequently recommend to folks?
I love Michael O'Brien, a Catholic novelist.
Fiction.
Yeah. And one of my favorite books is Island of the World.
Okay.
It's an epic, and it's long, and he gets pretty philosophical. But I love Michael O'Brien. Gosh, there are so many. Some of my favorite saint works are St. Augustine's Confessions. I've read that multiple times. C.S. Lewis's Till We Have Faces. I've read that a couple times. I'm getting in more and more into outer space. So I love some of our outer space works. Like, I just read a book called Man on the Moon, and it's about all the Apollo missions. Fascinating. It was the best nonfiction book I've ever read. It was fantastic. Really? Man on the Moon, about all the Apollo missions. And they go through the author details so well the personalities of these astronauts and what they're going through in the space program. So,
any kind of faith aspect to it, or
no?
Did it inspire you in your faith in any way?
Well,
or is it more just like historical, informative?
Well, I think that just the spirit of endurance and adventure kind of speaks towards our innate desire to reach, not to be cliche, but to reach for something beyond ourselves. Sure. And so that's what fascinates me about space and
the wonder.
The wonder.
What is out there? What's going to be there when we get there?
But even that first Apollo mission that went around the moon, and which was huge. That was farther than we had ever gone before. and then some. I mean, it was such a magnanimous event. The first thing that we hear on the radio as they're passing behind the dark side of the moon, and we have that Earth rise, the first visual Earth rise. We had, I think it was Frank Borman, the commander of that flight. He read from the book of Genesis.
Yeah. St. Augustine's Confessions. You mentioned. What do you like about those? You've read it multiple times.
Well, a teacher told me this one time that it was the first autobiography that had such wide success. I don't know if that's true, but that led me up to like, wow, I need to pay attention to this book, you know? And then when you get into it, you realize that the whole book is a prayer. The whole thing is a conversation between St. Augustine and his Lord. And then there's such depth and beauty, and you can also, it's just so honest, because he's not trying to go for readership, or he really is speaking to his Lord. And so you can trust in his journey.
Yeah.
So
why do you think he wrote it down?
It's a good question. Maybe a spiritual director told him he needed to. I don't know, like St. Therese.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm no Augustine scholar either.
Yeah. We're talking with Stephen Jagla, the Augustine scholar and the youth and young adult coordinator over at St. Vincent de Paul Parish in Fort Wayne. Talking about some book suggestions, and C.S. Lewis you mentioned. What do you like about C.S. Lewis?
Oh, I think he captures wonder so well.
Not Catholic.
Yeah, not Catholic, but certainly has a strong understanding of our human situation and Christ's part in the story of salvation. I mean, he is the story of salvation. So, I think his best work, and I've had friends just like yell at me saying, no, this is this, or this is that. But I love Till We Have Faces. I think that's just a phenomenal work. And
the one I read,
Screwtape Letters is so good.
I read Mere Christianity, which
phenomenal.
I feel like that's such a great one for high school, or anybody that's curious or maybe on the fringe of Christianity, wants to learn more about God, and a great kind of introductory to Christianity. Like,
so how did you learn about that one? God.
It was a study group that we were in college. We were all going to read the book and talk about it. And
well, you said you learned best through.
Read it.
Oh,
the discussion is where I get value. Yeah, right. I have a hard time paying attention while reading, but you're
good at listening, taking in information,
auditory.
Because you should know this about Kyle. He is a straight A student. Or was a straight A student, even though he admits he's never read all of the works.
Right. Yeah.
That he was supposed to read. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd even debated in college, like, should I even buy the books? Like, is this just a waste of money? But.
And look at you now. You're doing great.
Look at me. No, don't look at me now. Look at Stephen Jagla. What other books would you recommend?
I am in the middle of a book called Behave, The Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst by Robert M. Sapolsky. It's a New York Times bestseller. And I'm going out on a limb here because even for my genre, because it's very scientific, and he, I believe, is a neurobiologist and a behaviorist, and it's very scientific, and a lot of it is over my head, but there's certain things that I'm really drawn to and fascinated by, just the correspondence of our emotional life to some of the inner workings of the brain and experiences. Of course, it's a whole package. It's not just because your brain is firing in this way, then you're going to produce this effect or this action. But he does a fine job of presenting things. I give you a little caveat. I haven't read all of the book, and he does have a section on religion at the back, and so I haven't read it yet, but
we'll have to have you back on for the full review.
Okay.
Yeah, hear what he has to say about religion. Yeah. But whenever you're talking about brain stuff, are we talking about nature or nurture as far as how the brain responds to things?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. And I can't tell you why. I mean, other than he just provides so much evidence for both, from our genetic influences to our environmental influences. It's just way more complicated than I ever anticipated it would be. It's both in some way.
In a way, I think this kind of goes back to your space exploration, right? Just the wonder of creation and kind of seeing how our brains work can make you realize, wow, we are even more complicated than I had imagined. And that God designed all of this. And, you go to the argument of design that, a mechanical watch doesn't just fall from the sky no matter how many times you drop a bunch of gears. And how much more complex are we as people? How much more complex is the universe that we're a part of? And so anytime kind of looking into science, I feel like it always points back to these religious truths that, like, oh, we've been saying this as Catholics for years, and you're just now discovering that being generous makes you happy. Like, yeah, that's the whole point.
Right. Well, and that's the assistance of faith that gives us answers that we can then that we can discover in through science in different ways, my brain is working in this way to provide these endorphins and making me feel good because I'm providing some charitable act to someone else, whatever, and science could tell me that in that scientific way, but faith has told me that since the beginning, because it's just two different. It's revealed to us. Our faith is revealed to us, and so of course it corresponds. Again, one of my favorite philosophical principles that I always kind of return to mentally, and then when I'm speaking to other people, is Dr. Peter Kreeft's little truth bomb, and that is that God created two books. He wrote two books. He wrote the Word of God, which is fully revealed in the person of Jesus Christ, and he wrote the book of nature, creation. And so we should read them both. And that because they're from one source, there's so much beauty and complexity to both of it. But because it's one source, they'll never contradict each other, even though there might be some, along the way, as we're discovering in science, some apparent contradictions. But we know truly they never actually contradict, that they fit perfectly together. So faith and reason, what did St. John Paul II say, Fides et Ratio, that faith and reason are like two wings
of an eagle that help us soar.
Contemplate, help us contemplate truth.
All right. So as youth and young adult minister, what's something that you would recommend as a gift? So for your child, for your grandchild, for your godchild, for your brother, saying, hey, look, here's maybe a non-intimidating book to read that's going to help you or inspire you in your faith.
That's a great question. Well, I'm a big fan of Dr. Peter Kreeft for a popular reader. And his book I think it's called How to Be Holy, the best and most recent synthesis of just a healthy spirituality. So he quotes many saints, but he brings it in such a readable fashion. It's probably only 150 pages long.
Okay.
And divided into short, bite-sized chunks of chapters. And that is a fantastic book. Yeah. How to Be Holy.
First Steps in Becoming a Saint, Dr. Peter Kreeft. All right. That's your tip of the day. Thank you so much, Stephen Jagla, for inspiring us and sharing some of your favorite books with us.
Kyle, thank you.